dialed in to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something you can use. Like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff. Cause they know the brews, and they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny. And save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and Brews.
Bucks and Brews. Welcome back to Bucks and Brews. Nick, it's a special day today. Do you know why?
Yes, I do know why.
Tell me why, Nick.
Today is our 3-year anniversary of Bucks and Brews.
It is our 3-year anniversary. Technically not of Bucks and Brews, because we didn't name it for like 4 months.
Right. Well, let's say.
So it's our 3rd anniversary of doing something.
Podcasting. So
Recording while you were talking on Zoom.
Yes, it was 3 years of talking on Zoom.
There you go. So today's a fun day for me because I'm drinking the tried and true, always the blue Bud Light. And you, my friend, sound horrible.
I feel about the way I sound. I'm drinking Dr. Pepper tonight because I'm a little bit under the weather and my allergies are absolutely killing me. I'm literally plugged and my nose is running all at the same time. So I'm not going to be nearly as chipper as I normally am.
Yeah. Today's episode, it's something we've been looking forward to for quite a while. I know that you and I both sit through presentations of Timeshares.
We do.
They get discounts, so why not?
You have to say something at the beginning of the episode. You know that, right?
I say thank you guys for listening to us. As always, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. Again, today's episode is Timeshares, which is a hot button for a lot of people. We're going to find out how easy they're to get into and how hard they are to get out of.
You're definitely going to do that.
Mr.
Michael, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm starting with, even though I just broke one because it fell off my little makeshift table
He's breaking
for
beer.
my little outdoor setup,
Party.
a Papaya Paradise Cider Boys, which is an apple papaya mango hard cider,
Ooh,
That sounds
which,
good.
because of course it's a bottle, I opened with my patent pending trademarked Bucks and Brews bottle opener that can also hook to a keychain.
there
Yes,
you go.
good times there.
Then I've got a sour that I'm going to have after from called Ordock Brewing, which is, I'll figure out where it's based. It must be somewhere in lakes in the Upper Peninsula because it's called Superior Sourced with the Lake Superior on it.
Yep. Ordox
It's
is
electric jelly blackberry kettle sour.
Ooh, that sounds good.
and they weren't they at the Beer and Donuts Festival?
They might have been.
Yeah. They're not far from they
They're
were.
from up in Marquette.
Yep. So they're not far from Black Rocks up there.
Mm.
So, which is really, really a good brewery too.
So as you said, we have a special episode tonight. We have a guest. We love guest nights. Sonya, I believe it's McCullough. Am I right?
Yep.
Excellent. She's going to talk to us about her timeshare journey. Sonya, are you drinking anything?
I am, but not like you guys. I'm drinking Crystal Light.
There you
Crystal
go.
Lemonade.
There you
Although
go.
you'd be a man after my husband's heart with your Dr. Pepper.
I had to stay on the easy stuff tonight because I think drinking with the way I feel would be a very bad idea.
So, Sonya, all right. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with Timeshares.
Well, it came about when we decided to go down with my husband's parents down to Florida, to the Orlando area in the Kissimmee and that. And they took a camper and that's where they stayed at all. And so they said there was a park model that we could stay in. So we got there the first night and we'd booked this thing for 2 weeks. And my son was probably 5 months old and it was a piece of trash. It was like a camper with bunk beds. I mean, it was not what I thought it would be at all. And it was no money back. And so I went up to the front office and I said, I cannot stay here. I will not stay here. I said, I can't even put my son on the floor. I said, can't even take a shower and have hot water. So I got my money back. And my husband used to race boats. And so they had friends that stayed over in Timeshares in the Kissimmee area. So we decided his folks and us, we would just go and rent a timeshare like you would a hotel.
Mhm.
And the friends, now they had multiple weeks. And that's fine if that's where you want to go every year. And initially that was okay. So we were there, and we bought into it. We bought 2 weeks, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, it was because of course we had friends there, and they were telling us how wonderful it was and everything. And at the time, I think it was like $325 or something like that was going to be the fees for it every year. And I thought, you can't vacation for less than that, and I mean, we were less than 3 miles from Disney. So it was great. And it was good. It was good until it wasn't, the kids started getting older. We used it. We've been down to the Ozarks with it. We actually went down to Cancun and we used it with some friends. But every time, like Hawaii, that was a hard one to get into. Been to Wisconsin Dells with it. So we didn't travel that much with it. I guess we did go out to Vegas one time. That's probably takes care of about all of the outside places of Orlando that we went to. And we'd go down every other year. And but then the kids got busy with school and sports and stuff. And so we stopped going down as much. But we thought, you know what? Well, we can go other places, and so when we bought in at the time through RCI is the big one. And I don't know if I can name the resort.
Yeah, of course.
So Orbit One is where we bought into.
Okay.
And for $8,000 a week. And this is only increases in value. It just only gets better and better, and we're thinking, we are here prime time. We are here weeks 12 and 13 or 11 and 12. And my in-laws had week 13. So we're like, we are spring break, 3 miles away from Disney. I mean, you got Universal Studios, how much better can it get?
Mhm.
So you had specific weeks set out for you in your contract.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if you wanted to go elsewhere, you have to buy their subscription to RCI, which is like a catalog of all of the places that are available to you. And at the time when we bought it, RCI did what they called red, white, and blue. And red being the most popular, white being next, and blue, of course, blue being probably less desirable. So
like time frames?
Yeah.
Or locations?
Time frames, locations, everything. So we were the cream of the crop.
Yep.
Spring break period, 2 great weeks, close to everything. So we were red. We could go and we could trade for pretty much anything we wanted to trade for.
Sure.
And so, like I said, then that went off pretty well for a while, but then we kind of stopped using it, and they started they were switching to points. And so I'm like, I don't want to go to points. I've got, red, white, and blue. I'm not gonna go to points. And to get the points, of course, you had to invest more, like another like $15,000. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that is the thing that if people, they get sucked into it, they tell them, well, if you can't get what you want right now, just invest in a little bit more and more points, and you can get the things that you want. And I refuse to go that route. And so what we started to see then over time was they started converting us to points, even though we didn't purchase into it. So they had a process that you could, in our case, like you could do what they call space bank your weeks. And that meant, I'm not going to go this year, so I'm going to space bank my week. I may use it another time. They let you space bank 2 weeks or 2 years prior to when you were supposed to use your weeks and 2 weeks after. So theoretically, you could accumulate, 4 weeks and go someplace or whatever. And so, and that's kind of basically what we did. Well, then they started, the people that weren't going over to to points, they started converting us to points. So you had to space bank your week at least 2 weeks in advance of when your arrival date was supposed to be. And it was worth the same amount then as it was, 2 years prior if I used it. So what they started doing was, if you space banked your week 2 years out, you would get X amount of points. You'd get, let's just say 50 points for that. But if you weren't sure what you were going to do and you were going to hang on to it, and what you saw was the points went down, down, down till you got to right to the end where they basically became worthless and very difficult to trade to go anywhere. And maintenance fees were going up. I think by the time we got out of that, I was probably paying $650 a year for each week.
And how many years?
$1,300 a year at the end for it.
Oh, it went up 650 extra.
It started at $325 for the maintenance fees, and then it went up to $650 about $650 by the time we got out of it.
Oh, okay. So it's $650 per week.
Yep.
Per week.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And on top of that, then if you want to go somewhere else besides the place that you own, you have to buy into the RCI subscription. So that was another, if you bought 5 years, that was another $250 that you had to spend. And in the beginning, when we started out with them, I would go to I would space bank my week and I would go to trade it, and I'd ask them, this is where we're wanting to go. This is the week. Do you have anything available? And I guess I'll step back. I had not space banked my week yet. I didn't want to space bank my week till I knew I had another place that I was going to go. And I'd get, well, I can't tell you until you space bank your week. I said, so what you're telling me then is I'll space bank my week. I'm gonna, oops, did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Oh, okay. I lost your picture. How do I get you back, I wonder? There you are.
See our pretty faces.
Absolutely.
There you are. So in essence, then you called back and you said, okay, this is where I want to go and this is the week. And and I'm sorry, there isn't anything there.
Oh.
And that's what I told him before I hung up. I said, so really what you want me to do is you want me to space bank my week, call you back, have you tell me that there isn't anything, and then I'm stuck. That was major frustrating.
And what was their answer when you said that?
Nothing. That's what you had to do. If you wanted to go somewhere else, I needed to space bank my week because that's the only way it opened it up for them to be able to go and look and see what inventory was available.
Sure.
They do that purposely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
They could do anything they want. They do that purposely.
Yep. So
weeks was really nice. It sounds like, actually used to work functioning pretty decent. Like you were guaranteed this week, you were guaranteed this. Now, was it let's call it a unit? I'm in apartments, I guess. Are you guaranteed a specific?
When we
room?
bought in, we bought we bought into 2 different buildings. And I know that sounds odd to do that because you don't want to have to move when you get somewhere, but being an owner and everything, basically what you did was called down and said, hey, we're coming down, we're using our weeks. I don't want to stay in the units that are mine. I want a unit that I can be in for 2 weeks. And then Orbit One they were pretty good about finding you that. So when we did go down there, we didn't stay in our units, we stayed in other ones. so that we didn't have to move or anything. In Orbit 1, I mean, it was nice. It was smaller. The kids were little. It had a small pool towards the back. It had a bigger pool to the front. And I think when I looked it up to do this, I think there was only like maybe 160 units total in it. So it wasn't one of those places that you needed a golf cart to get around in.
Sure.
Not like Westgate, which is just right down the street from it, you
Yeah,
know.
it's we just that was my last timeshare I just did was
Good.
Westgate. So
But-
you do golf cart around there.
Yep, yep. And so that's how we ended up, you know, we'd go down there, but it was something, you know, that we just did kind of every other year. And these other friends that were down there, they went every year, you know. So, you know, it was great when the kids were little and school didn't interfere and you could just kind of take them out and everything. And once you got kind of past the, you know, I think down the road they did change their policy where you could see if there was a week open if you wanted to before you space banked your week. So it became a little bit easier. Problem was I still couldn't really find the places that I wanted to go. You know, we went places, but not necessarily where I would have, probably the best use we got out of it was us and some friends between Christmas and New Year's went down to Cancun. And so we, you know, we got great use out of that. And our unit was 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I mean, it had a kitchen, it was stocked, living room. I mean, it had a screened in porch and everything. So it was, the model units are really nice. A person, if they're going to buy one, needs to go ask and see, can I see the unit that I'm actually going to be buying? Because over time, even though you're paying this maintenance fee, does not necessarily mean that maintenance is getting done. And we were literally there, and the ceiling from the floor above us had let their tub run over and it fell into the tub.
Nice.
So the maintenance just wasn't being, you know, and I know I can be picky, and maybe even more so, you know, at a hotel, I expect that, but at that I expected, you know, a little bit more, you know, furniture without the stains and just kind of disgusting or whatever, you know. I was paying for that. I expected more than if I just went and found a hotel and I pulled in and spent the night.
Sure. And you're spending, sorry, was it 8,000 for both or per
Two.
week that you bought?
8,000 per week. So we spent 16,000.
So 16,000. So you spent 8,000 times 52. So $416,000 per unit. You know, is what these people are charging.
At that time. Yep.
And they can't even do regular maintenance. I mean, you know, I'm buying duplexes, you know, anywhere from I've bought really low, but let's just say they average $100,000 right now, and they're getting 416 per unit.
Are you surprised?
And this was some of my notes that I wrote down. So if you take that like times 100, let's just forget that I paid $8,000 for it. Let's just start even at the low number. Let's just say you got 160 units, 52 weeks in that unit, and you're each paying $325 to $350 a year for maintenance fees. That adds up pretty darn quick.
Yeah, it's $2.9 million.
So
for them not to do maintenance.
Now,
that's per year of income just off of maintenance.
Yep.
And by the end, when I left, it was up like 650, 675.
Yeah. So, and you said, let's just go with 650 because I can do that quickly. And that's, so every year they're bringing in $5.4 million
on maintenance fees that they're not really
fees. That's not buying it. That's not the $8,000. That's so anywhere from what do we say? $3 million to $6 million is what they
maintain.
Yeah. Every year is
Literally
what
you
are bringing
could pay. I mean, even if you were paying, you know, wages down and
wow.
there, I mean, a maintenance person's probably not going to make more than 50K.
Well, I mean, some might, but let's just say 70. I don't care, right? You have a team lead.
You can literally
Yeah, you're
hire
not paying this in
a team
wages.
of like 100 maintenance workers.
in the real estate field, right? You need you need one maintenance person per every 80 units is the basic, right? You'll keep them busy, the work. So you need
So you get two.
on-site maintenance people there, and then you'll have, landscaping, which comes on a constant, but still, like, they're making hand over fist.
So again, even if they
this.
spent $1 million on wages and actual maintenance,
They're still
they're still making almost $2 million on nothing.
Yeah, that's insane. And apparently having, like,
This is a racket.
I get the tubs falling, because if somebody overflows their thing, there's nothing you couldn't prevent that, right? But
And unfortunately, they don't have the way that like a hotel could, because if somebody's saying you've got people who've bought into like having a week every week, you can't be like, okay, this unit is unavailable for the next 2 weeks while we fix up.
Sure.
That's
So now I'd love to. Do you know the rules and regulations of timeshares?
Such as what?
Sorry, so if they have 160 units, they're allowed to sell, I'm assuming, all 160 for 52 weeks. Can they sell more than that?
or like overbooking
No.
flights
Yeah,
and
can they
stuff
overbook?
like that.
No,
No,
they-
okay.
They shouldn't.
Well, say
They should-
because
They
now with
should
now
not
with
be
the
able
points,
to do that. As I would say, no, it would be illegal for them to do that.
sure,
They could only sell the number of weeks that they have for units.
okay,
I
because
mean, it'd be like an Airbnb where you're literally like sharing your unit with
Yes.
somebody else.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
hearing,
And, at the time when we started doing this, there wasn't Airbnb or Verbo or anything like that, so it was great for where we were at. Our kids were little, we had a second one, and so it was, you just didn't have those options that you've got now.
sure.
Um,
So how long you owned it for 13 years, I think you said?
no, we owned it for, let's see, we bought it in, Adam was born in 87. We bought it in 88.
It's a great year. It's an
88.
amazing year.
Adam was born in 86.
86, 89.
Oh, 80. Like my husband's telling me my oldest was born in 86, not 87. So
That's why I tattooed my kids' birthdays on my arms.
They'll never forget.
So it was 87 then when we bought. Now I got, so I decided I did not want, we got out of it completely in 2017. But before that,
Basically 30 years of
Yeah.
involved
Yes.
in some way, shape, or form.
yes, much more. So that's why timeshares are just like my real, they get me.
Anti-passion.
going. And so it must have been we must have had it for probably about 20 years. And the kids were the kids were older, and we no longer were using it, and we were working it, and we kept saying when we retire, and we can go wherever we want to go, and we can use it whenever we want to, then it'll be a good deal. But I at that point, I was like, I just want out.
Sure.
And so we ended up, and I can't remember how we did it now. We ended up putting it, or the friends that we went with had a friend that wanted to buy a week. And I said, I'm here. You wanna buy my week? So for my $8,000 condo, we did a quick deed. I got $1,000
Oh, wow.
Wow.
when I sold it,
See, okay.
and it went to their name. So this profit, this constantly, because of where you're at and the weeks that you've got, and it's an investment. Timeshares, they're an investment. They just get better and better.
Sure.
And so we got it. I got out of 1 week for $1,000. Then I think it was Hurricane Maria came through. I think it was Maria. And that must have been like in 2016 or something like that. And I started getting rumblings from a friend. It really hit Orlando bad, and it really hit apparently it hit orbit 1 bad in that whole area. And so this friend started hearing that they were going to be charging all of the owners, the weak owners, a one-time assessment to cover the deductible. And
Really?
then I about lost
So,
it.
so all your money you're paying for maintenance that isn't getting used is not going toward the deductible for any
And that's
repairs.
exactly what I said. I said, you have got 160 times 52 weeks times, I've been here for 30 years and you're just now having a disaster and you don't have enough to cover the deductible. I was pretty livid.
They were worried about profits, not necessarily their investment.
Right.
And then you couldn't, if you had a week there, you couldn't go use it anyway because the place had been destroyed. So you're paying for, and you're going to pay for this assessment. And so we had gone down, went down to Arizona in 2017. We kind of did Christmas in Thanksgiving. And as we were driving out, I'm like, I'm done. And my husband kept saying, well, maybe we'll use it. Maybe we'll use it once we're retired. And I'm like, I'm done. We just got done using an Airbnb down here. I walked away. I don't owe them anything.
Yep. I'm not
I
writing
do
another
not
check.
need to have this unit. So then it became a matter of finding how to get out of it. And fortunately, well, I think it's better now. It depends on who you're with. At the time, I just kind of had to make the calls and see. I started researching what I needed to say to them to get rid of it. So as we were driving, I called them and told them that my husband and I were now retired. We were on a limited income and we could no longer afford to use it or pay for it. And we wanted to voluntarily relinquish it, which means I'm going to give it back to them for free. And they can go sell it again. That's what they want to do.
Sure.
So, okay, well, we need to run that by, the lawyers have to decide if they can do that or not. Don't make your maintenance fee when it comes around next year. Don't pay it, just wait. So after it must have been, maintenance fees were always due 1st of January. So it must have been about February or March. I called them again and I just said, where do we stand on that? And they said, you've been approved to relinquish your week. And I'm like, here you go. And so I got out of it.
So you were very fortunate.
I was very fortunate. And since then I have researched. There are like Diamond Resorts, they took over managing like Orbit 1. Diamond Resorts is a big one.
Sure.
There's Wyndham, there's Marriott, there's Hilton, there's all of those. Some of them will do buybacks or relinquish them. And now if a person goes and does a Google search and you're fortunate enough to be with one of those, you can probably get out of it. Now, I don't know the more, because when I did it, you couldn't even go out and Google and find who who were companies that would even allow you to do it. But
now, did you get paid?
I managed to get rid of mine without it costing me anything.
Okay. So
however, there are, if you want to get rid of it, where they may make you pay to get rid of it and pay big bucks to get rid of it.
And so, because, I sit through, it's funny, I sit through a lot of these. My wife always wants to buy. We never do.
That sounds very familiar.
Well, and that's the thing too, when they're selling to you,
Mhm.
and if you went in there and you didn't have your wife with you, they wouldn't do it.
Right.
Because if you go back, or say she goes in and she's all for it or whatever, but you're not there. And now you go out of the room and you're like, honey, we're not buying that. You've got 3 days, you've got 3 days to rescind. See, they don't want that. So you have to have adequate income, and you have to have both parties there who are going to be buying, so that there's nobody can come back and say later, I didn't want that.
Sure. But every time they pitch you on, and let's just use round figures just because. So, it's $20,000 and you can have a week or a couple. And it's funny because actually they're just selling like 3 nights now. I mean, they're splitting weeks up. These people are being so crazy. They're, hey, you can have 3 nights.
And let me tell you, you can go if you want to those same places and treat it like a hotel and find it online and get a place just like that.
Oh yeah, so my trip to Florida this year, we spent $87 per person round trip for our flights, which was a cheaper airline. That's fine. Our hotel we did upgrade. I think it ended up costing us $700 because we got the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom full count. Originally it was only gonna be like 400 and something, but we brought more people in, and so it was $700 at a resort that they actually have timeshares. And so because we ran into people that had timeshares there, and they're like, wait, you paid less than we paid for our maintenance fee. And I was like, yeah, we just hop on, booking.com or whatever it is. But so at the end so it's $20,000, they'll offer you that. And then they'll go, oh, well, if that's not good, I'll do it for 16. I'll do it for 10. And then, they walk away and talk to whoever, and they go, look, we had this one come in and it's yours, right? And they're like, look, you could buy this. No thrills, no anything, and we'll just sell it to you for 10 grand. Granted, you paid $8,000 for it. You gave it back to them for free, and they resold it for another 10K with the maintenance, right, or more, right? But so whatever the original starting is, it's always like half price or a quarter of the price, whatever it might be, and you can just go buy in. So
and then whatever you do, if you say no, I'm not going to buy that.
Yep.
Hang on just 1 minute. Let me go get my manager.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then they come and it is just, I mean, if you've sat through it, you understand.
Yep.
We did it down in Cancun because we stayed at a different place, but I'm like, I think I can't remember what free we were going to get, and I am like, there's no way you'll be able to pitch me anything that, because I hate this so much.
Yeah.
That, and they always tell you,
take your free gift back because you're not selling it to me.
Yeah. And it's just an hour or two, it's just an hour to come in.
Never
here.
is.
Now, by the time you're done, it's 4 hours, 5 hours by the time you get out. And it's nuts.
We did one in Mexico as well for, it was really, so we had 2 gifts. We had one where we had an amazing time on the gifts that they gave us. And I think those were $150 tickets a piece. So $300 value. And then at the end of it, you were supposed to have an all-inclusive at their resort, which was a beautiful, we stay at the poorest resort. And then this was a fantastic resort, but we got done at like 2:30 and we had to be out of the resort by 5. So we had like 2.5 hours. I can get drunk in 2.5 hours off really high-end alcohol, but, we were told it was supposed to be an hour-and-a-half presentation. And in Mexico, I didn't feel as comfortable setting a timer, just saying, hey, my time is done.
Right.
But so we kind of got played in that sense of things. But
so you remember the motorhome?
And the time doesn't start until you get started selling the pitch, because they always bring you in, they fill your belly.
Yep.
They, hey, come have breakfast, come do this, come, or now we can officially start.
You remember motorhome?
Yeah.
So my aunt could go to Arizona.
Yeah.
So we got a free weekend.
Sure.
It was a timeshare.
Oh yeah, the Sam Good.
And I'm not a camper. I'd camp every night in my house because I pay a lot of money for my house, and that's the only damn camping I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they bring us in, at the end of the thing, and they set us down and they give us their pitch.
Blue green, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy looks at me and he goes, so what do you think? I said, camping's stupid. I'm not camping. And he goes, but you bought a motorhome. Right.
to go
To
across
get my
country.
dying aunt to Arizona.
Yeah.
She is almost dead now when we didn't get to Arizona. So this fucking thing's got to go.
Yeah, you made it 6 hours.
And he goes, there's no changing your mind, is there? I said, nope, because you got to stay here for 15 minutes. I'm like, that's fine.
Deal.
No, and I just sat there for 15 minutes, talked. 15 minutes was up. They took us back to the stupid motorhome, and I got rid of that thing a year later.
That's what we did in Florida. We literally, and like I walked in, we ate breakfast, and I was like, no, hurry up, guys. Don't go take forever on breakfast. Like, we're
Yeah.
leaving in this time. The guy's like, what? And I was like, you have an hour and a half? We actually have a park we have to get to. And he's like, well, I have to show you this. And he's like, I won't waste your time. And I was like, great. And you're done. And he's like, well, I have to finish this. Let me get your stuff. And it take 15 minutes to walk
Yeah.
back. You know, I get my SeaWorld Aquatica tickets for, you know, free. And,
Yeah.
you know, so it was worth it. We saved, you know, $500 actually on that one presentation. So I was pretty happy about it.
And I'm gonna guess and I don't know, but I'm gonna guess when you went and did these presentations, you're going into a little room and you're going into a room where there are multiple salesmen and multiple people at tables sitting down,
Oh yeah.
trying to sell in a big gigantic room the spiel to everybody.
Yep.
That
And-
so and when a place just opens up, that's when it's amazing to me that they are still selling, that people are still buying timeshares.
Really, it amazes you.
It does, you know, and because they are worse than buying a car. I mean,
100%.
because obviously, you know, I managed to get rid of mine for $1,000 and I thought I was lucky. The second week I gave it away. But
Yep.
if you want to go buy a timeshare, I think there's a site called Tug or whatever that you can go there. You can go to eBay. You can buy a timeshare for a week for $1.
Yeah, I say we almost
So-
bought into one because I could bought it for I think $1 or $10, and it was for the camping one because we like to camp.
So
Yeah, but is
And
your
now
idea of
that there's-
camping more like
now
my
that
idea of camping, more like his idea of camping?
what'd you
I
say?
mean, Nick likes to camp.
Oh, okay.
Like
Like
he
me.
takes a pop up and camps.
Yeah, I say,
That's not camping.
yeah, say Mike wants to be no
Mike wants to
no
detach.
electric
Yeah.
and yeah.
Literally, like I got an entire shelf that's all just like 6 tents and a bunch of sleeping bags.
No.
Camp.
I'm gonna camp tonight in my house in my nice warm bed.
But so yeah, you got rid of your second. Now I've kind of heard through David's communication with you, you're trying to get rid of another one.
Yes.
Say, please walk us through that.
So and I don't understand why they bought it, and my mom and dad went to Hilton Head with some friends
Yep.
that could afford it. And they thought, this is great. Only thing is that they got a week in February in Hilton Head. So, you know, they don't golf. They don't, you know, so they bought a week. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, and they've been in it for 20 years.
Okay, so they've been in it a while.
Yeah. And they bought on the points system. And it worked for them for a while until and they used it. Problem was that they had a dog, so you have to find the right places that'll let you take a dog with you, and just finding something that you can use. Well, my dad, before he passed away, they wanted to get out of it. And that's the other thing we did too. We had the timeshare and we were stupid. We probably had it for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. We paid $500 to one of those timeshare organizations that will sell your timeshare, guaranteed. Never heard a word back from them.
Really?
Oh yeah, not a word back after you paid the money.
Sorry, so I don't mean to divert you, but
Timeshare exit companies.
Yeah,
A lot of them are scams.
We'll come back to that. So finish with your mom's story first. Sorry.
So so my folks were looking to get rid of it, and they said, oh, they were told up at the office it wouldn't be any problem. They're at Hilton Head. This is a great place, you know, same as I'm at Disney, and it's wonderful. You give us $100 and we'll list it, and we'll probably have it sold in less than a year. Well, that happened probably about 3 or 4 years ago. My dad has passed a year and a half ago now.
Sorry to hear that.
And so I decided, okay, we're going to try and get you out of this. And, you know, earlier I told you, if you're fortunate to get with the right company, you may be able to do a buyback or whatever. I don't know if all of them, if their buybacks are you pay them to take it back, which that just blows my mind as well too, that I paid you for these weeks and now I'm going to pay you to take it, and then you're going to take my week and then you're going to go sell it to somebody else and make money on it again. So you are like triple dipping, you know, on something like that. And so they paid it. Well, so I called and tried to get her out of it. I got to the highest level management, yes, that I could get to. And I explained to them that my father had passed away, that my mother was 86 years old, that she could no longer travel. She was on a fixed income, basically the same thing I said when I tried to get out of ours. Sorry, you can't get out of it. I'm like, there has to be a way to get out of it. Nope. And I said, so what happens when a person dies? What happens to the timeshare?
It gets deeded to you.
The family gets it.
Yep.
He said, family doesn't want it. And they said, it's no different than your house. And I wish I would have thought to say, but you know what? My house is worth something. This timeshare is not worth anything. And so people who think this is just awesome and they're passing it on down to their family, it is a ball and chain around your neck that you can never get out. So the company she's with, she's in Hilton Head, they won't do it. And I've tried it again. I've tried calling again and they will not. When my dad died, we wrote a letter, we sent the death certificate, thought just maybe, didn't hear anything from him. So we thought, well, maybe. Well, then this year she got a bill. She got a bill for, and which we couldn't understand, was the year my dad died, a bill for like $55. She's paying $1,200 a year for her timeshare in Hilton Head for her maintenance fees.
Wow.
And so this year when the bill came around, there was the $55 charge on it, the $1,200 charge on there for this year's maintenance fee, $300 charge for late fees, and then another $25 charge for something else. So she owes like $1,700 on it.
That is insane. And it stays with her.
And
Need somebody to go secretly burn down that entire building for you?
that, you know, and they are unwilling to do anything.
In North Carolina.
What the killer is though, is the couple that they bought the timeshare with, they bought a different week. They called him up, said his wife passed away, couldn't handle it anymore. They let him out of his contract. Can't get her out though. So nothing is consistent.
I mean, as for me, it doesn't seem like it'd be that warm in that area in February. Maybe that's part of the issue.
That, you know, and that's why I say I look at the timeshares as, I was watching some videos because we were coming back from Arizona and I spent most of my trip coming back trying to figure out how to get her out of it, you know, sure. and looking up all of these companies and, you know, what could I do? And the worst part of it is just that it carries on to the next people.
Generation,
like it's just a ball and chain. But
Yeah, because there's at least a house if you've owned that for 30 years, unless you're in like just a horrible part of the country. I mean, you probably doubled what you've put into it.
It's worth something. And if they pass it down, now what we did, what we have seen, and I've seen this several places, I think like Clark Howard, I think he's out of Atlanta or whatever, but he has a thing, if you inherit a timeshare, so if you inherit a timeshare, basically what I was reading on it on some other sites was you have got to, so say it goes to it comes to our family, it goes to my sister and she doesn't want it. She can reject it, but she's got to file papers in the county of where the timeshare is at, saying that doesn't want it. Sure. And so then it passes to my brother then. And he's got to do the same thing. He's got to reject it.
Yep.
When he does it, now it comes to me. And I've got to do exactly the same thing. And so they say you've got about 9 months to get out of one if you inherit one. And the problem is just that people, they get it and they will at some point want to get out of it. I promise you, they will want to get out of it and they can't. Yep. Which is,
or at least maybe they never want to, but somebody who inherits it wants.
That, I'm sorry, you said what?
That maybe they don't specifically want to, but somebody who might inherit it.
Exactly. And that being said, what happens is the people buy it, and if they use it, there does become a point in time where they can't travel. You know, she's 88 years old now. I mean, so even if you buy it and you've got nobody to pass it on down to, you own it. And I finally learned what the word in perpetuity means. You own it forever and down to the next people and the next people and the next people, because it's actually, you get a deed. You own the week, so you can't get out of it. And I promise you, that person that doesn't even have anybody to pass it along to, they're going to become at a point where they are unable to travel and get around, and they want to get rid of it. And if you're with the wrong company, you're not going to be able to get rid of it. And the other inconsistency is they can, if they want to, they could put a lien on your house. Mm. They may not.
At that point, they're running credit checks and they're looking for collateral just for you to even be able to buy it.
And where it comes to my mom's case, we're like, you know what? She's 88 years old. We don't care. If you want to ruin her credit, that's fine.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So that's the route we decided to go. And when I tried again to get rid of it, and I spoke to the woman, I just said, so basically, I'm just going to just stop making payments on it. I did not go into and say, would you put a lien on? Because I thought, I'm not going to put that idea in it. But the problem is,
let them actually take ownership, have her move in with you and let her take ownership of their house.
Well, and you know, if you have not paid it off, what I started reading is, and finding out is, if you haven't paid your condo, if you haven't paid the unit off yet, you can just stop paying on it. Now it'll go into foreclosure. It will probably affect your credit, but you will be out of it. And in 10 years, your credit will be back, instead of being with a timeshare for 40 years. And now, so she's 88 years old now. She's not going to be going traveling unless somebody goes with her. And that's not going to happen because we want out of it. So I promise you, anybody who gets a timeshare, as they age, they're going to want out of it. Yeah. And they will probably not be able to get out.
Sure. Have you tried to Airbnb? Because, you know, in the sales techniques right now, it's like, hey, you can Airbnb your week, or you can do all this. Have you guys tried doing that?
No.
No.
The problem is, if you're trying to get rid of it, and especially with the
nobody can be in it during the time you
hold on, Mike.
Yep. You have to not use it. Mm-hmm. You can't. So That's why we just kind of stopped paying the maintenance fee and I'm not doing it. I'm like, you don't use it, you don't book anything, you don't call them, nothing. We no contact whatsoever. And we'll just see how long this plays out for, you know. And if I could say that for 100% certainty that they'd put a lien on her house or whatever, then maybe we would try something else. But it's hit or miss. It's like their friends got out of theirs. And my sister wrote him a letter and he's like, oh, we just went and contacted them and told them that we just couldn't handle it anymore. And we got out. And I'm like, my dad has passed away. You know, she's 86 years old at the time and she's not going to use it. Nope, sorry. It's yours and it's yours forever. So there's no consistency whatsoever with how you're handled. So, and I said for the amount of money that we owe now on it, the $1,700, which, and next year will be another $1,200 on top of that. I'd rather pay a lawyer and try and get out of it. But I think we're just biding our time. We're just going to see if, will they put a lien on the house and on her house. And then if they do, then we will probably be forced to deal with it at that time. But
so nothing I can say can be taken as legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. But in my opinion, I would make sure mom has everything in her name beneficiary to somebody, you know, any accounts that she has. That way, upon her death, it immediately goes to all of you.
well, and it is all that way.
Good.
In fact, I said I would pay a lawyer if it would work. She just updated her will recently. I would pay a lawyer the $1,700 to create a trust and leave the timeshare out of it. And then there wouldn't be anything that they could do. I would spend the money to do that before
it's better in that case, because at least you know that $1,700 is all you're spending. You're not going to get another bill in another year for another 1,200 to maybe even at that point more than 12, maybe even the 1,700. I mean, it may be a $2,000 bill next year.
Well, yeah,
you know,
well, it'll be more than that because it's 1,700 to add 1,200 plus probably another $300 late fee on it, and you know, whatever. So you'll be looking at, you know, well over almost $4,000 probably by next year.
Well, what happens when, you know, whenever mom passes away, hopefully many years from now, is they'll foreclose on it and they can go after the estate to pay anything they lose on the timeshare. But if everything's beneficiary, the estate doesn't technically have funds to pay for it, so they wouldn't get anything. Now, the house would be a different issue if she owns her house. I would probably, if it was me, have that house also put in all of your names. That way the house can just go to all of you.
That was a discussion that we had, but she's very sensitive to that. And that is,
and at that point,
that would be the very, very last resort.
Well, I know for like,
because I mentioned that doing that.
I know with my mother's house that I'm on the deed, and my aunt before she passed away is on the deed. So that if anything happened to my mother, it passed to my aunt and me. Now, my aunt ended up passing away first, and everything she had was beneficiaried, including her, you know, her houses weren't solely in her name. And when Capital One, for example, wanted to be paid $850 for her cremation because I put it on her Capital One card, you know, before she passed, I basically wrote a letter saying, this is what the estate has, and it wasn't anything. And they said, all right, well, we're just going to forgive this because it wasn't worth them for $850. Now, a timeshare probably is going to say it's worth it.
Sure.
But I mean, there are ways to get around this. And again, not legal advice because I'm not a lawyer, but there are ways that you can, I don't want to say manipulate, but kind of, you know, steer things into your benefit.
Yeah. And it's a touchy subject with where my mom is concerned, because I was telling somebody else about this because we were dealing with it on our way back to Arizona, and That's exactly what I've got another couple of friends, and that's exactly their, first thing she said was to do that, and so I mentioned it, but I told my kids, I said, you know what, I'm gonna put everything in y'all's name.
Mhm.
So but we're out of that stuff. And now my husband's brother, he continues to keep buying them, but they are going to the same place every year. I'm not sure what he's paying per week or, for maintenance fees for them. I just told my husband, I said, you just make sure you tell him that we are not interested in inheriting that. But I promise that at some point in time, a person is going to want to get out of it. Even if they've enjoyed it for 50 years, there's going to come a point in time in their life that they just can't do it anymore. And they're going to want to get out of it. And I think it sucks that you've got to necessarily, I mean, I was reading of some people paying, $4,500 to the company to buy back their timeshare.
Mhm.
And I refuse to do that too. So and like I said, you've got Airbnb and you've got Verbo now. You don't need a timeshare.
Yeah. And I think like with the stories you've told, like if the first story you told about the Orlando-based ones didn't scare people enough, the one about your mom should like make them like rutted like power under a rock every time that you just hear the word timeshare.
That say that again. You were kind of cut out.
I said the first story you told was bad, but I mean the one with your like somebody's like, okay, well I understand that, but it's probably not as bad as like. But what you said about your mom, the Hilton Head one, should just like anybody who's like hearing the word timeshare should just like run away scared. Literally.
Absolutely. Yes. They should
like,
just run.
Absolutely.
And she's with Hilton Head, and unfortunately they're not one of the companies that do that. I asked, do you have a bereavement department? Well, the bereavement department basically is the salespeople.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
And so
everybody is probably the salespeople.
Yeah, it is such a racket in my eyes. I was never so glad as to get out of it. It was good for the little bit that we used it, but like I said, everybody is going to want to get out of it, and I'd be hard pressed that family members. I know my kids have said, we don't want it. When we had ours, we don't want it. We don't care what you do with it. They didn't even mind if they used it once in a while, but don't pass it down to me, so the next generation doesn't want it.
Yeah, with everything you're saying, it almost sounds like I mean, I don't think that industry would ever revamp, but like if somebody wanted to like literally like buy a property in like a very well vacationed area, I feel like, and just do it like, you know what, we're doing this, it's gonna be kind of like a timeshare, but you're only locked in for you could pay a little more and only get 3 years, or you can pay a little less and get, 6 years, and then you're given an out when you finally realize, okay, yeah, this would be really good for me and my family for the next 6 years, and then I am not put into it anymore. Kind of like when you rent an apartment or rent a business location or something like that, because you're basically saying this is going to work really well for me for the next 5 years, but then I get still priority over it if in 5 years I want to re-up for another 5, or I could say, okay, it's only good for me for another year or another 2 years, so I'll pay a little extra to have it for the next 2 years.
Well, and I mean, I realize our government is like completely broken, but I do not understand why. That was going to be my next step. Was I was going to write to our congressman here in Iowa to see what I could do for her in Georgia and to see if but you shouldn't have to go that far to get out of it. And I don't understand why Congress doesn't get involved with it. I mean, it's the only industry, that I can think of that you buy into it and it's worth nothing the minute that you own it, and then you can't get rid of it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
because
because there's a difference, because like rental properties are governed by the length of the lease.
The-
So
Right.
like, yeah, you rent a property, but once that lease is up, you're no longer,
yeah, but you're not renting this, you're owning it, right? There's,
Yeah.
The only way to get out of your house if you stop and make, so let's say you have paid off and you want to get rid of it and the economy's down. I mean, you have the choice to sell. If somebody's willing to buy it, you have that. But like, again, this is pure ownership. This isn't a rental. This is owning.
The difference
but
is,
in a way, it's renting because you're.
It's not though.
if
Like,
you're-
the difference is this. So your sister
yeah,
lived in the same trailer park that I did when we were poor as shit.
she did.
Do you remember how she got out of that home?
Gave it away.
She gave it away.
Yeah.
She just walked out and said, "Here,
Yep.
take it." You can do that with a house.
Mhm.
You really can't do that with a timeshare
Right.
because people are looking at that going, "Yeah, that's not worth really the hassle." So they don't want it. And the reason Congress doesn't care is the right people aren't greasing the wheels on that to make that go. Because
They're making
Again,
$6 million.
well, that's just it. They're listening to the timeshare companies going, "Yeah, you don't want to take this up. This is not a big deal. We're making a lot of money and we'll give you some and just keep your mouth shut."
Yeah.
Well, and again, like,
Maybe that's why DeSantis and Disney are fighting. He's getting a lot of money from the
you look at
timeshare
your
people.
house. You look at your house, right? I mean, you have maintenance on your house over time, right?
Mhm.
You have to, but the smart person should budget for a roof, should budget for a furnace, for a water heater, for all of these things. I mean, so they're just taking it and breaking it down. Granted, they're overcharging and making money on top of their money.
And then
See, the fact of the money is you're paying a company to maintain your house, which is really not much different than having either a condo association fee or something of that nature. And at least with the condo, even if you're part of an association, that's gonna have some money when you decide to sell it in 5-10 years after you finally realize you want something a little bit more than just a condo.
Well, again, Caitlin bought that condo. What was it, under 2020, and they just sold one there for 160,000. She paid 132.
Yeah,
and it's a apartment style condo, so it's not a desirable place. It's not a desirable location.
No, it's not like a condo where you have like basically like a half of a duplex or something
Right.
like that, or
And
even a whole small house or whatever.
well, and with what she has in there, she could easily get 150 to 160 for it right now if she wanted. Again, that's a tangible asset. These timeshares really, even though they
They're
are
not.
tangible assets, they're not really tangible assets because, like we've gone over, the payments never go away. They go to your kids and they go to their kids' kids, and
Yep.
they literally will exhaust everyone in your family to push
Well,
this on somebody.
Me, it's predatory the same way payday loans are predatory.
Absolutely.
And they
100%.
literally are putting you into a loop where you either are paying a whole lot of money or you're losing a whole lot of money.
Correct. And again, it's like any other high sales technique. Mike, you and I know, Nick knows because he sold Kirby's, we sold Filter Queens. You get in the house, you show them how great it is, and they're willing to spend $2,000 on a fucking vacuum. You got them there, they're captive. You're not leaving until you get a yes or a no. And you got to show them everything you got to show them because, people are polite. They're not going to kick you out, even though they should. I kick
I've had
people out
people.
all the time.
I had people when I was selling Filter Queens who kicked me out because all they wanted was their free gift, and when they knew they weren't getting their free gift until they listened to my entire spiel, then like just get out of my house and don't even give me the free gift.
Yep.
But no, I mean, to me, it's like, and you and I had talked about this day, I think when I was hanging out for my birthday, and I'm like, this is kind of like, I mean, some things from like some of those 90s comedies don't hold up, but like the Friends where they're like, they joined the gym and then they wanted to quit the gym, and then they wanted to go to their bank and stop paying for their, it's like the same thing. They keep things from you being able to just quit the timeshare.
Yeah, they want to make it extremely hard on canceling it because they still want their money.
Mm-hmm.
So they make it almost impossible to ever get out from under it. That way they don't have to worry about, having unsold units.
So, it didn't sound like you guys had too many issues with getting the, let's say, locations and times that you wanted. Am I wrong in what I'm saying?
When we were buying into Orbit One was it was still in, I don't want to say development stages, but they had just finished developing it and that, and so their units were all available. I mean, they were selling and everything, but they were relatively new, so they had a lot of, and it's basically like just picture setting up a table by the pool to sell to anybody who'll come by. Okay, I've sold all 160 units, all 52 weeks. Pick up, let's go. And now whoever is managing it or whatever is really no longer managing it any longer. They just go to the next place and, start selling, units there. And then the worst part of, we actually have friends down in Arizona who bought a timeshare, and they had bought points. They got talked into, as what I said earlier about, well, if you can't get what you want, if you invest another $10,000 or $15,000 in it, you'll get more points. So then you can really go to the places that you want to go to. They had to file bankruptcy to get out of their timeshare.
Yep.
It sounds like even like the first handful of years you were using it, you were able to go to a lot of places you wanted to go to would have availability. It's just at a point.
When I went to cancel it, or when I tried to get out of it, and they kept trying to talk me into, are you sure you don't want to use it? You've got, you can go anywhere. And I said, no, I really can't go anywhere. So I live in Iowa. I said, what you offer me is Clear Lake, Iowa in January. I said, or you offer me Texas and Arizona in August.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do either of those at those times, I mean, so that's part of it. But, these friends that, I mean, actually they had to file bankruptcy but they went in there, they convinced them, just throw some more money at it and it will be better. You'll have more. And it just didn't happen.
You can go to Branson, Missouri every year, because it's what, half day's drive away probably from somewhere in Iowa.
Yep.
But who wants to do that? Every year?
My aunt.
Well, yes, your aunt.
Peggy's mom.
So I think when somebody hears the word timeshare, they just need to run. And if you've got no willpower, and I can't even say we didn't have willpower, because we went into it willingly. We had friends there, and circumstances were such that, I wasn't going to stay where we were at. And, this is perfect. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, with kids, and this is perfect. So we willingly signed on the lines. There wasn't any sales promotion done to us, but, we've, in some of our travels, well, the Cancun one, we did it, and so I was already fully aware of, what went on. There was no way that I was going to be sold it, but the tactics and stuff that they use is just, and I started reading some of things of what other people were talking about, trying to, the salesmen tell them that, I promise you'll be able to go wherever you want when you want to use it. And then when they try and do it, they can't. But spend a little bit more money, and then you'll be able to do it. And so they flat out. And some people, I went to the Better Business Bureau on the one that I'm trying to get my mom out of, and I think there was 129 complaints, like in 3 years, and maybe 50 were resolved, but people were writing and saying that they would get home and they would tell you, don't worry with the finance, we'll help you with the financing, and you would sign paperwork, and then they'd get a credit card at home. Mm-hmm. And what they did was, so we paid $8,000. I'll use me as an example. instead of me signing a contract, I signed opening up a credit card, and that's where they put my money at. And so now I've got timeshare, and I am paying on a credit card that's charging that I never knew I signed up for in the first place.
Yeah, now you're paying like 27% interest.
Exactly. And so it's just it's unbelievable. And there wasn't just one story that I was reading that multiple people were saying, they had no idea what they signed up for. They didn't understand. Why did they get a credit card in the mail? And I mean, so the sales tactics they are just crazy. It's so wrong. It's so wrong what they do.
Well, and we briefly touched on like timeshare exit groups, and you hear commercials for them all the time, especially, me, because I listen to sports talk radio. And, get with us. We'll get you out of your timeshare guaranteed. You touched briefly on that, and I definitely want to hear what your experience was with that. But, when I started looking into it, a lot of these companies are kind of fly by night. They take your money and then they just kind of close up shop and you never hear from them again.
Run. If
Mhm.
you hear that, there was one, I think it's the Wesley Group or something like that. That is an exit timeshare. And I thought, well, maybe I'll check into them for my folks, So I called and I got somebody to talk to, and they started telling me everything they would do. And I said, well, I want to know, am I paying you up front? And they just kept kind of circling around and wouldn't answer. And I said, I want to know if I'm paying up front, because if I'm paying up front, I'm not doing it. I'd be happy to do it if you get rid of it and I'll pay you after the fact, but I'm not going to pay you up front.
Yep.
And so, and I think the Wesley Foundation or the Wesley Group or whatever it is, they are a big one that advertises. And that's who I went to trying to do this. But same thing. If they want your money up front, just run, because you will not hear from them again.
Mhm. Yeah, and
And
that's a huge
it's
issue.
sad that my folks gave Hilton Head $100 and they were told, oh, no problems, you'll sell it. And
Yeah.
you know what? They didn't sell it, but if you go and ask them again, if you give them another $100, they'll work on. So every year, that you don't sell it, you pay them to try and, keep selling it. It's not that it's, we'll work on this for 15 years for that $100. It's not. It's like, well, we worked on it for a while. If you want to continue to keep trying to sell it, give us $100 and we'll be happy to try and market it.
Well, it's not in
But
their
are they
best
really
interest to sell
marketing it, or
those.
are they just holding on to it and being like, kind of available, and if somebody comes, we'll mention it, but we're not going to actively market it?
That's what I feel like, but
That's exactly what they're doing, because there's no benefit for them to sell it. They already have your money.
well, and then the thing of it is, when I initially, the first time I wanted to try and sell hers, after my dad passed away, I could sell it on my own. So I said, okay, so I'll find somebody and I'll sell it to them for $1 then. Well, with the company that she's with, oh no, you can't do that, because they get a percentage off of the money that you sell it. So I had to sell it for at least like $3,000 or $4,000, because they got like their cut of it, even though they didn't do anything. And I want to say something like 40%. And that may be too high. So I couldn't sell it for $1 myself, because I also had to pay them, even though they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they at that point just have you over a barrel.
Yep. And so it's just, I lost it when I was on that one. And that's why we're just willing, we said 88 years old.
Yeah.
She's not going out to buy a new house or a new car. We don't care.
Right. I say the only problem is, you know, if your mom makes it to, you know, 100, that's 12 years times the 2,000. I mean, that's $24,000 that you'll end up owing them over time.
Uh,
Depending
Yep.
on what the estate has.
Let's say, right, yeah, so it's all a matter of if they can get it or not. But now, let's say, it sounds like, so now you used it every other year, but you still had to pay maintenance fees every year for it. How did that work?
So you can just automatically have it taken out of your checking account. It works really easy. You just you get your bill every first of the year and you pay it. And in our case, like the years that we weren't going, I would space bank it early, and then then I could, if we wanted to go somewhere place else, then we could kind of do that. But then, like I said, then they started switching us over and making it, because we wouldn't switch to points, they basically did it for us and said, okay, if you space bank it, 2 years prior, we'll give you 50 points for it. But if you wait until 2 weeks before, we'll give you 10 points for it. And so the in-between years, I don't know if we go someplace, or the kids were little, we may have gone to Wisconsin Dells, and like I said, we went down to the Ozarks, and one year we went out to Vegas. But by that time the kids were older, and we were never using it, and then it becomes one of those, oh my God, I've got my weeks space banked and I'm paying for this, I might as well, and then you pay for the catalog to switch to go to another timeshare other than your own. Now, if you're going to go to the place that you own, you don't have to buy into the RCI magazine. But not only do you, if you want to use it somewhere else, do you need the RCI magazine to be able to do it, but then you pay a transfer fee, because I'm going to go from from my home place to someplace else. So there is another fee to pay on top of that for me to go to someplace else.
But they're making a killing.
So they find a way. They find a way to make money with you from you, pretty much no matter what you do, whether you're using the property you've purchased or whether you're trying to just go to somewhere else in their catalog. So
Yep.
because you mentioned when they moved to points, like I didn't realize a lot of these properties were owned by a lot of your larger like hotel chains as well. Like if you had points for, like, I think you mentioned Wyndham, did those, like, if you were just like on a general, like, oh, I'm going on a business trip and I stay at a Wyndham hotel, did those points all go together, or are these points strictly, okay, so they're strictly for the actual timeshare? So you can't
Timeshare,
like
yep.
get bonus points by staying at like a hotel, like when you're just doing day-to-day, I can't even say day-to-day travel, like, but just like normal course of
Business
the year
travel or vacation travel. Yeah, I'm going to stay here, and so I can, maybe I'll get 1,000 points for staying here, whatever, added on to what no, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So when you switched to points, did you lose your weeks?
Well, we never switched to points.
Okay.
So we never lost our weeks. I refused to pay money to switch it over to weeks. So that's when what they did for the people that weren't subscribing to that, where they took our weeks and said, where if I want to go, if let's just say like in the year 1990, I know I'm gonna go down there, so I don't need to space bank it. Let's just say 1991, I know I'm not going to go down there because I'm going every other year. I could have space banked that in 1989, and it's all good. Or I could have spaced it 2 weeks before I was supposed to be down there, and I still had all of my credit, I guess, if you will, because my red week had a good week. It had a good location. And so it was still worth the same value 2 weeks before I gave it up versus 2 years if I gave it up. But what they did with by forcing points on people who wouldn't, so I never went with points. What happened is, if I didn't space bank my week 2 years out in advance, and I decided to wait 2 weeks before I should have used it, I went from, let's just say, my points being worth $50 or 50 points to down maybe to 8 points. So that's how they got you. And so your selection of where you can go decreases, because now you've been told you bought this place and you've got great weeks and you're in a great place and it's desirable and everybody wants to go there. But then what they did, bait and switch, now I can't use it because this is how they're handling it. You didn't want to go to points. You didn't want to pay us an extra $15,000 to switch to points. We've got another process now.
Because I have friends who, the ones who actually set me up with my ex-wife, who had, I don't know if they still do, but they always had a timeshare up in Traverse City, which is probably one of the biggest vacation destinations in Michigan. I mean, that's an area where over the holidays is always busy, but they're like 2 weeks that they purchased. One is in like April and the other is in like October. So it's kind of prior to peak season, or just prior to, or just a little after peak season. I mean, it's not bad, because at certain time, like in the later one, it's kind of when some of the fresh wine is coming out of the wineries and things of that nature. But still, it's like you're still limited to that. There aren't a lot of other places in Michigan where you could probably afford be able to have a timeshare setup, because no other place is that always going to be consistently vacationed during the peak vacation in Michigan.
Listen, now my confusion, I guess. Sorry, I just kind of want to go back to it. So, the people you sold to, do they still own it? The one that you sold for $1,000?
As far as I know, I don't know. We never kept in touch.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I thought they were friends of yours.
Well, they were friends of the friends. So,
okay.
And of course, then we went to try and sell my husband's, my in-laws, and actually my brother-in-law did use it for a couple years after they had both passed. But who Orbit One, and they were changed hands to Diamond Resorts, that became the management company. He used it, and then maybe once or twice, and then when he decided he didn't want it anymore, he sent in a death certificate, and then basically he was done and out of it. So I want to say there are some that they've just started, that nothing like that was out when I started, initially when I was trying to do it. But now you go out and you look, and there are a number of companies that they do have programs where you can either buy back programs or relinquish your week. And who we were with, Diamond Resorts, they happen to be one of them. And there's a number of them, but unfortunately my mom is not with one of those. And so it's just a battle.
It sounds like, but they could still like revamp an entire system and make it work. Because like I said, you seemed happy with it the first handful of years you were using it, because you were going there, and other than having to pay a little extra to be able to say, okay, I want to be in Wisconsin Dells these 2 weeks instead of in Orlando these 2 weeks.
And initially we did, we went to the same place. I mean, his folks retired and they went down to Florida. And so, that was, and then my husband's friends were down there. And so it was a great, it was good. It was a small place, and not big. And friends that we've got that are down there, they still continue to go. It just for us, it just became something we didn't want to do anymore, or we couldn't get where we wanted to go when we wanted to go. And I was tired of paying the money to not be able to utilize it the way that I wanted to.
Sure.
Well, it sounds like they really like shot themselves, but when, at least when, I mean, again, Diamond Resorts kind of helped you with when you wanted to get rid of it. But when they moved from just having that red, white, and blue to having the point system, where like I said, when you were red, white, and blue, you were really.
Yes, and then we really got screwed. Yeah, I feel like we really got screwed over by that, because that made our weeks basically useless to us. And I would say, wouldn't you say, out of the last 30 years, we didn't use it for 15 years. We paid. I would be willing to bet we went nowhere, did not use it for probably 15 years. We just paid and paid and paid.
And between all the payments, that ends up being probably close to a couple $100,000.
And that's, you can take a pretty dang nice vacation for,
I can take a pretty darn nice vacation for a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that really became kind of the thorn in my side, was we weren't using it. Then when these friends knew of somebody who wanted one, and and rightly, I should feel awful for it. And you'll read people, they'll be like, unless you can sell it to somebody else and then, do to them exactly what it is that you're not wanting to, to get done. But, they bought it. Now, when we did try to sell my husband's parents, the person we were going to sell it to was the son of all of these friends. And he wouldn't give more than like $1 for it. And
the problem is you're getting into these, I think timeshares will start going away over the next handful of years. I think as the baby boomers and the Gen Xers can no longer afford that stuff, because I really do believe the younger generations don't want to be stuck into something where they feel like they have to do the same thing every year. They would rather
I would
I want to go to,
but that's what,
or a certain time they have to take a vacation. I think a lot of them, I think you're the exact same. You've got the perfect mentality. Like you've got I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah.
but you say, when you say that, you have to understand that, yes, when you talk about it, right, it sounds like it's easier than it is, right? But when you're there, right, and you have your kid and you're day 2 of your vacation and you're absolutely loving it and you're not at your job, and they look at you and go, hey, don't you want to have generational memories with your kid? And you could sit here and for the rest of your life you could enjoy this, right? Think about the memories you're going to make with your kid.
Really going to places where,
but you're not understanding,
like tucked into a timeshare, they're Airbnb or they're Verboing or they're getting hostels or something like that.
You're absolutely missing
What?
half of the sucker in, right? You want to go to Disney?
Well, this is it.
Disney's $160. What if I can get you tickets for $20?
This is what it is. They find people that can't normally afford to vacation and definitely can't afford to own a timeshare. And they go, here, I'm going to give you all of this great stuff for free. You just have to sit with me for 2 hours.
Yep.
And then
and I think you go into it thinking, I'm not going to buy.
Yep,
But you know
always.
what? I'm going to get the free tickets. And that's what it is. I can go in there. I'm not going to buy. I'm going to be strong, because I saw this when we were in Cancun and we were in there, and they set us down, and I'm like, by that time I was well versed in timeshares.
Mhm.
There, you couldn't have talked me into anything at that point. But that's exactly the problem, is just that they offer you these rewards to go if you just give me an hour or 2 of your time, and then you get in there and it is such high pressure sales. It's unbelievable. It is just the sales. And if either of you've sat through it, then it's And
Well,
if
it
you
doesn't
won't-
even have to
if
be
you won't-
pressure. It just
yeah, if
has
you
to
won't
be.
buy, if you won't buy, hang on just 1 minute, maybe my manager can do something better for you, he might be able to offer you a better price, and again, yeah.
It's handling objections is all it is,
Well,
right?
again, the number one sales technique is always be closing. So you don't ever ask them a question you don't know the answer to. You don't say, do you want to buy this?
Right.
You say, don't you want to have a nice place to take your family to? Don't you want to be able to provide for them the things that you weren't provided as a
But even that, Nick,
youngster?
you're sitting there talking about lifetime memories with like your kids. A lot of these younger generations aren't having a lot of kids.
Okay, so then great. Hey, but you're
really
you're
think
with
this
your
will fix
significant
it.
other, right?
Oh, I work with a lot of people your age, and nobody I know has ever gone to like a timeshare. Like I'll ask them, like, how was your vacation? What'd you do? Like they'll never be like, oh, we decided to buy a timeshare. They're literally like, we went just kind of, got a really cheap hotel by the beach and just hung out at the beach. They are not looking for these high-end resorts that are going to give them. You do it. I mean, you don't do it from a financial perspective, but you go in there like, oh, I want free stuff. They're like, if somebody wants me to sucker me into buying something, I'm not going to deal with that. I'd rather go drink 10 beers at this bar over here for the next 5 hours and go sit there for 5 hours.
Well, and again, neither one of you are wrong. I agree
No.
with you, Mike. It's going to be a much lower percentage of millennials and Gen Z that are like, yeah, this is a great idea. There will, like you said, still be people out there that are like, well, I can't afford to do this, but they're going to give me free stuff. I'm all in.
Oh yeah. Or I mean, we're from Michigan, right? It's cold. You're in Iowa. I mean, it gets cold. When you see it on TV, when you get it in the mail and it just says 5 nights, Florida, $99. All you have to do is pay. And you hop online, you're like, man, my flight's only $100 and I can go to Florida for $100 more and my room is paid for. Great. All I have to do is give them 2 hours. You know what? I could do that. I'm gone for 5 nights. Like again, this is sales, like plain and simple. It is sales beyond sales. Like you say, hey, they're not going to want to go to the same place. You're absolutely right, Mike. I don't blame you for not wanting to go to the same place. You know what? Great. Make memories in so many different places, and that's what your points can do. Your points can get you to anywhere in the world. You want to go to Paris? You're going to get engaged in Paris. Tell you what, you buy that today, and your memories will last forever. Again, it's literally just a sales technique.
Let me ask you this. We've had Vanessa on many, many times.
Many.
Vanessa loves Disney.
Loves Disney.
If you tell her that she could spend a week down at Disney every year,
yeah,
you think she's buying in?
100%.
Absolutely, she is. And she's smart enough, and not to say that people that buy timeshares aren't smart. She's smart enough to know this is probably a bad investment.
Now,
but she's sitting there looking at it going, oh, you mean I get to be at Disney for a week every year? That's fabulous. I want to do that.
Yeah, of course. And when you're there, it's completely different, right? Again, you're filled with emotion. You're filled with all this. And all it takes is me to figure out what your emotion is, right? Like all it takes. Oh, hey, you said you bought when your kids were, 5 months old. It takes, do you want your family to have memories? Now you're sitting here going, oh, okay. Well, you and your husband, you're retired. Wouldn't you love to just go travel all over? You could do that with these points and anywhere you want in the world. Hawaii, you guys are talking. Well, yeah, I don't blame you for not going to the same. But again, everything is handling objections. That's literally, this is what bugs me is people don't understand because, I mean, right, I get so mad that my kid can't sell candy bars at school, right? Like,
oh my God, that's the easiest place to sell candy bar.
Right,
I used to buy boxes of candy and just fucking sell them at school
because
for extra money.
Right, but like all I'm saying is they're taking away this, but there's other people who are willing to go learn this, right? And the people that make the most money are in sales. It's plain and simple what it is, right? Sure, yeah, there's other aspects of things, but sales is what is one of the number one. I mean, pharmaceuticals, look at the reps on that. They're making big money. Again, all that matters is handling objections, right? No matter what you say, you can object to it, right? No anything. Oh, hey, you don't like the rainforest? Great. Go to the desert. Oh, you don't like the heat? Great. We can put you up in the Wisconsin Dells. I mean, you're literally the epitome of a person that should buy one because of the places you've traveled and the memories you want to make, right? And the hard part is just getting out of them. And I don't know. I don't think that I'm going to see them going away anytime soon.
I don't think
I
they'll be
think
as
that, I
popular
think
as
at
they
a
once
point
were.
they'll have to rethink their stance on this being a lifetime investment to being more of like
I
a,
like the idea, I think that Nick said, I think it was Nick said it, if you had it and you said, I'm buying into this and I'm buying in for 5 or 7 years, you know,
Yeah, it's Mike. Yeah.
okay, and
Nick
you
would
know,
actually want you to pay for the rest of your life.
yeah,
Oh,
and you know,
100%.
and you kind of know, and you know, so you experience it, and it either works out well, and if you want to continue, then you go and you do it for another 5 or 10 years.
It could be a
you know?
very long-term profitable thing that
No.
not predatory if they were just willing to not be predatory.
Oh,
about it.
let's say the idea of this is predatory, right? Like they wouldn't be around. I mean, think about it.
What he's saying is you could make it so that it's not predatory
No, I mean,
and still make a lot of money.
And I mean, because I
Sure,
guarantee
there's
you
always a
people would get
potential.
the same amount of money per
You know,
year
well-
and per month if they even if they knew they were only stuck into it for 5 to 10 years and knew at that point they could reevaluate and things like that. But I mean, that's the hard part is when you're stuck into it for life and it's very difficult to get out of that lifetime thing to the point where even like you said, Sonya, like you and your husband pass away, well, like not for you guys anymore, but like your mom passes away, and then it's got to be like 9 months to maybe a couple
gotta-
of years
We got to
before
jump
if
hoops.
you and
just
your
to-
siblings say, "No, we don't want to just get rid of it." I
Yep.
mean, that's still insane. I mean,
It is to think that we'd have to jump through those hoops
Yeah.
to get rid of something that we
like
never
you're
wanted.
suffering the loss of a parent, and now you've got to
Yeah.
jump through hoops to not pay an arm and a leg for.
And I know I said to my folks several times, I'm like, y'all heard me say that I would never do this again. What
And you were only
what
10 years in.
possessed you? And in their case, it was they were with friends and they could afford to do it. And so, you know what? They had a good time and they bought. You know,
Yep.
they may not have even had to been pressured into it. You know, but I just said, what did you not hear me say? You know, about not buying a timeshare.
And that's the
I
reason
could
why,
tell-
like, you know, rental properties and stuff. I mean, you may be able to do more than just a 1 year lease, but even then they realize, hey, you may want to move to a house, or something may happen where you have a kid and a 2-bedroom doesn't work for you anymore and you need something bigger. And I mean, that's why they're limited to what they offer, because they realize things change. And unfortunately, the timeshare system doesn't do that.
Okay,
The problem is it's expensive. Even if you go and say you're going to go buy one with the intention of I'm going to travel all over the place or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I'll go to eBay and I'll buy a week, you know, I'll go buy a week for $1 or whatever. But they deed that over to you, and that dollars just become your monthly maintenance fee, you know, or your yearly maintenance fee now that you've got to pay. And on top of that, I paid $1 for it, but you know what? I may not get to go where it is I want to go.
Yeah.
Because maybe the timeshare I bought for that $1 really isn't all that, you know, that doesn't trade up that much or whatever, it isn't worth that many points or whatever. So you buy into it for cheap and thinking I'm going to use it for travel, and then find out you can't use it because, and that's what I was reading a lot on the Better Business Bureau. The one company is just all of the people who had, you know, they'd been told they could go travel somewhere else, or for a little bit more money, you get more points, and then you can for sure go to those places you want to go.
Well, that's why I think like the idea of the weeks is nice. You're guaranteed where points. I mean, you're not guaranteed your week. You're not
Right.
guaranteed, you know, you don't have, hey, oh, we already filled it up with people who are traveling. We're doing all this type of thing. And so that's why I think new ones keep popping up so they can sell more. And granted, nobody's going to go to the one in the middle of the desert, let's just say, but hey, we have a timeshare. Buy into this one.
So I want to jump on the rental thing for a minute because Mike brought it up.
Yeah.
So not you, because again, you're not the normal landlord.
Mhm.
Most landlords, would you say they do a year lease because they want the ability to up the rent in a year?
Um, the answer is going to be yes,
Right.
right? And I think I yes, right. The answer is yes. Hey, we're going to do that. But
What's your
now
lease?
now you look at mine's all month to month.
Exactly. And how often do you raise your rents?
Once every few years.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
but you know, when you look at big corporation aspects, so let's go into sorry, I know we're tangenting, but you go into a triple net lease, a Walgreens. Walgreens doesn't own any of their buildings, right? So then they go in and they say, hey, we'll sign a 15-year lease with you. Every 5 years, we're gonna re-up and you're getting an extra 1-2% interest on top of this. And you know, your maintenance fees, triple net means you're covering everything, right? So Walgreens is still responsible for it. They just happen to be renting the building. And so they're responsible for everything. So like that's a possibility. You know, we could sit here and debate on, you know, hey, a 5-year, a 6-year, a 10-year, whatever it is, like, but then that company has to go resell, right? You know, and when you look at it, when you guarantee that you're getting income for the rest of your life off of something versus I'm only getting this guaranteed money for 10 years, people are going to be wise enough to go on and go, hey, at $600, you're right. I did find a week at this exact same resort for, you know, $500 for the, you know, sure, I paid 50 extra bucks, but I'm not locked into anything. These people are counting on people not using it. They're
Right.
counting on, you know, hey, free money. I mean, really what it is, right? You're giving me maintenance money and never using it.
Mhm.
So, and, you know, I don't think that you're the minority. You know, I think you're the majority when you say, hey, I didn't use it for the past 10, 15 years of it. I think there's so many people out there not using it and it's just not worth their time.
Somebody brought it up before, gym memberships.
Right.
How many people sign up for a gym membership and don't go?
And never cancel it. Right. I mean,
They just keep
Or-
paying.
right. I have my membership right now. I haven't used
I
it.
At
think it's
least,
like-
at least you can get out of a gym membership.
Yes.
But more
Right.
people like you, like Sonya, like you said, none of your kids were ever showing interest in taking over your.
No, they enjoyed it. And honestly, they, you know, we loaned weeks to them for them to just so that they could be used. And they, you know, they loved that.
Yeah.
But they don't love the idea of owning it. You know, it's great to take mom and dad's week, you know, and I'm going to take all my friends and we're going to go do this and whatever.
I think you'll see more of that. They'll be looking for things
but-
like that, being like, oh, hey, if I get on this website, I can have this property that's literally a 3-minute, you know, tram ride or whatever.
you know,
Disney.
and that's
And-
great. We still had it. Now we got grandkids, you know, and I think, oh, it'd been awesome. You know, we could have taken the kids to go there. I mean, it was so convenient. The kids were little. We go to Disney. They got tired. We left at 2 PM. We came back, swam a little bit, took naps, and we went back that evening. You know, I mean,
That's basically, I mean, when I took a trip down to Disney, and this would have been 8 years ago now, because it was just kind of about a year before my divorce. It was the same thing. It was basically what Verbo is before it was Verbo. We rented a house in the Kissimmee area. It was the same thing. Like, we took the kids, we did Disney until they were basically tired. Usually either my brother was there with his wife and there's older kids, or, you know, just they're kind of around. So if the older of the kids wanted to, you know, hang out till, you know, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and, you know, but then when the youngest ones got tired, it was like literally, yeah, we went back to that house and we swam and we, you know, and the nice part about that, it was a house. I mean, it was a big house. So literally like 15 of us were in this house together, all with, you know, separate beds, but it was nice to have a patio to grill on and a pool to swim in and a deck to hang out and drink in, you know. And that's kind of the only problem about these ones, especially if they're more like apartment complexes. You're sharing that pool with everybody who's there.
Mhm.
Like I'd much rather do a Verbo style thing because
And, and I think, now that we've got grandkids, and oh, wouldn't that just be awesome? We could go down, there'd be a place to stay. But then in my head, I'm like, there are so many more options than just having to stay at a timeshare.
Mhm.
I can get a VRBO, and when my son got married, my family came. We got a VRBO, up in Minnesota, and we had, just like kind of what you said, probably 15 of us staying in the house. And at the end of the day, I walked away from it, and that was it. And I gave them a good review, so the next person might want to rent it. And I owed nothing else on it.
I did the same thing for my brother's 50th birthday when we were down in the Gatlinburg, Tennessee area. It was literally like 20 of us in one gigantic cabin, but it was literally family and a couple of my brother's really close friends. So people we wanted to hang out with the entire time.
Yep. I kind of think the same way, like we boated and camped a lot, and we sold our boat and stuff. And we've got some friends that have got one, and I'm like, I like it so much better. I just go get on the boat, I get off, because you have a boat that's working when you put it away, and I guarantee you pull it out in the spring and something is wrong. And if it means I can go with you and pay for some gas and help you wipe it down, I'm all for it,
The same. I've got an aunt and a cousin who live on a lake. And they're separate, same lake, but different properties. And then, my sister's in-laws have another, property on a lake. It literally is. It's the same thing. We just go hang out and say, hey, here's $30 for, gas for your boat for, the day we were here. I mean, so I like going up and, crashing at Nick's house for the pool. I mean, I don't have to deal with it, but if Nick said, give me $100 a summer to help me pay for the chemicals for my pool so I could come, hang out at his pool 4 or 5 times a summer, I would give him $100 for it.
There's your new money making idea.
That's what I'm thinking. No, I said they have pool rental things.
I know.
I gotta get on that app. So, Sonya, anything else that you want to tell us that we didn't hit on, that you'd care to share with everybody?
I can't really think of anything. I just think if anybody, is considering a timeshare, there are so many more options out there, and they need to run. Don't even, we talked about getting tickets to go to Disney, that, otherwise they cost you this much. I got to a point where when we'd hear it, I'd rather pay the $500 for the tickets than have to go and listen to their spiel. I mean, because it was just that pushy.
Yeah.
And
especially then with your experience, so much of it as only half truths.
Yes. I think half might even be giving it more credit than what it's than what
and I was trying to be a little more. I was trying to be maybe toward the more positive side of the ones that maybe aren't as story as
So the only thing I had real quick before we end this is how much did your maintenance fees go up every year? Do you have any idea? Did they go up every year, or was it just random? That was the other thing I had to ask.
They went up every year. It was, we had it for 30 years. So we went from starting at $325 per week. And I think we ended up somewhere around the $650, $675. So not,
but it was guaranteed it went up every year.
Yeah, it pretty much went up every year.
Okay.
And then, like I said, on top of that, then if you want to go anyplace else, you've got to buy the RCI catalog, and then you've got to pay the transfer fee because you're going to go to someplace else other than your own. There is just all of that money that you're paying, even if you say, I want to keep going back to the same place every year. I mean, I look at my mom and she's paying $1,200 for hers. And you know what? We can get an Airbnb in Hilton Head in February, probably for $600 or less, because the weather's not great. And to your point, have a place that's more where we're all together in one place versus, you know, being spread out. So I feel like we were probably relatively lucky with the fees not going up as much, but you know, if she had 2 weeks, she'd be paying $2,400 a year.
So,
for-
and she gets a full week.
And so it's just what I'd say to anybody is if you think you have the resolve to go in there, it's not as easy because they really are, it's to the point that you made. Don't you want to form memories? Don't you want to do, you know, I can't afford to do this, but just think of what a great time you'll have here. And you can do this every year. You can have the whole family come down, and they play to that, and you get sucked into it. And again, you make this decision and you think you've done such a good thing. You've got 3 days to get out of it.
Yeah.
But not very many people take advantage of it because they think, well, they just done this great thing.
Well, they catch you early.
Well, in your
enough
3
in your-
days,
in
you're
your
probably still on
week that you're
vacation.
there, so
Probably.
you're still having a lot of fun on day 3.
Yep.
Exactly. And then, you know, as I said before, you can't, you know, they wouldn't sell to you if you came in on your own and then you said, yeah, my wife, she stayed back because she didn't want to come. They wouldn't sell.
Because they probably got messed up by it too many times when they
Oh, yeah.
first started out, because they were like, oh yeah, sign up for this.
And
like
then
you said,
somebody was,
either the wife who wasn't there or the husband who wasn't there was like, no, we're not going to do this. And then they're
Exactly.
like, crap, now we're.
so I would tell
looks bad. It
anybody,
may not cost them any money, but it looks bad on their numbers.
Your mom, she's at the Westland in Hilton Head.
she is at Southwind. Southwind 2 in Hilton Head.
It didn't pop up. I say, but I you know, I just did a quick Google search, and for from Sunday to Sunday, 7 days or 8 days technically, 7 nights, 137 a night, which equals $959. So it's still cheaper to book direct than it is to actually do it that way.
Yeah.
So
I would just tell anybody, don't do it, because I don't care if it sounds like it's the best thing at the moment. At some point in time, you are going to want to get out of it. And I think there is more opportunities if you're with the right company. That being said, I didn't pay anything to get out of mine, but I don't know if these companies, yeah, we'll take it back, but you have to pay us to do that.
That as more and more companies learn that they can do that, they may not, like, you may only have the five best rated companies that are still going to be like, yeah, you know, we'll let you out for basically either free of charge or a very limited, like, oh,
You know,
just give us, you know,
and
the
in a lot of cases,
$100 that we would charge you to try to sell it to be out of it.
in a lot of cases, you know, they may let you out of it, but your maintenance fees and all those costs have all got to be up to date. And so if you're with a company and they do have a program that you can get out of it, and it doesn't cost you additional money to get out of it, then maybe it's the thing, but you really need to do your research. But I would tell anybody not to do it. Don't use the companies that tell you that they can sell it for you, because they won't. They will take your money and you'll end up with nothing. There's too many options out there that were not there when we started doing it. And it just kills me to think that, you know, my mom is 88 years old and my dad is dead, and they don't give a rat's ass about it. and
Yeah.
and she's not using it, and they're wanting her money, and they don't care, and it's something is wrong if you can, if you
nobody uses it and they're still getting money, it means they're getting like,
Yes.
Dave and his wife own a small business, and early on when they were starting, when they didn't have a lot of inventory, it was literally like, hey, a no-show, great, we just got paid and we didn't have to use any of our inventory for it.
Yeah.
I just think they hold you over a barrel, and the sales tactics in doing it are so awful. What they do, the lying and all of that, and telling you that, and then to compound that with then trying to upsell it when you can't use it the way that they promised you that you could use it, and then you try and get out and you can't get out of it. I would just tell somebody, I'd tell anybody who was interested in a timeshare to run. And I've got another girl that I worked with. They go up to northern Iowa every year. There's a group of them. They go up there every year. They use the same week and they have a great time, big party, whatever. I promise you, there will be a time. Neither of her children, they don't live here near here. There will be a time they won't want it, and they may not be able to get out of it.
Yep. So, say noted. Don't buy a timeshare.
Don't buy a timeshare. If you got nothing else out of me, just don't buy a timeshare. But
say I have to give a shout out to Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. Thanks for another fun couple drinks. David,
I enjoyed my Dr. Pepper.
David over here is drinking Dr. Pepper, Marty.
I enjoyed my ciders and my sours. Oh, I really want to say, I want to give a shout out to my outdoor setup. I'm trying to set it up maybe where next week is from my backyard, but in the short term, I went with my front yard because I had better access to my electrical outlets.
There you go.
Well, I know I'm gonna go home and pass out.
Say I'm in.
Hit it.
Everybody, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. Sonya, thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate your knowledge.
And you know how I found you guys, or found this is my drive back from Arizona, trying to get my mom out of her timeshare. I decided to go to Reddit, and because my son's always talking about it, and you guys had that in there, and I'm like, my son's like, are you sure about that, Mom? You sure you want to do that? And I am like, I hate timeshares so much that I would be happy to be on.
We appreciate it.
ABC, but the one that doesn't cost you any money. What does your son do? Does he have something that would fit for Bucks and Brews?
That would, what'd you say?
That would fit for a Bucks and Brews episode.
I don't think that he would.
Or even just talking about like how he budgets, they do anything like ideas for future investments,
Well, he I don't know. I'll have to say something to him. He works at Microsoft. He kind of does his own kind of investing and stuff like that, and gets kind of into that stuff. But
so Sonya, stay with us real quick. Say everybody that's still with us, have a great night.
Yep, we'll be back next week with something. We don't know what yet.
Yeah, say if you're feeling better.
Thanks for joining.
You've dialed in to Box and Brews. You might hear something you can use, like tips under cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff, because they know the brews, and they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, because shit's not funny. And save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.